Let's switch gears now and classic science fiction series to discuss the three rhetorical appeals, or what Coleman refers to as the content of persuasion. So, in teaching my students this subject in class, I hit upon a pretty solid metaphor that actually helped me understand the way that a well-developed argument is constructed using ethos, pathos, and logos. I like to think of a well-rounded argument as the Starship Enterprise. If you're not familiar with this television show, Star Trek, the Enterprise is the flagship of the Federation, an organization devoted to peace and cooperation between various different species. And so on the Enterprise, you have three main officers, and these three officers form the backbone for the rest of the crew. So, the ship's science officer is Spock. I like to think of Spock as logos, which has to do with the arrangement, placement, choice of evidence, and your use of good sound logic. So, Spock serves as the voice of reason on the Enterprise. He is half Vulcan, which means he has completely eliminated any emotion from the way that he functions, and he functions entirely on logic. He says that logic is the beginning of wisdom. Now, in addition to Spock, the medical officer, is Bones, or Dr. McCoy. I like to think of Dr. McCoy as ethos or credibility. Dr. McCoy is older than the rest of the crew. He often gets to make big decisions if someone isn't fit for duty or if someone needs medical attention. He's the one who's the ultimate voice of reason and of authority. So you can think of Bones or Dr. McCoy as your ethos. Ethos is your credibility and your ability to use good, strong, sound judgment. It also has to do with presenting yourself as someone that the audience can trust, and everybody trusts Bones. He's the medical officer. Now, the Enterprise would be nothing without James T. Kirk. Kirk is the captain of the ship, and I like to think of him as pathos or pathos. Now, Kirk, although he does use good sound logic and has his own form of credibility, tends to often focus much more on that immediate gut emotional reaction. He's often found with a blue-skinned or green-skinned maiden in his arms, or fighting an evil villain. He's the one who's all the muscle. He's the one who's the big emotional punch. So you can think of him as pathos or pathos, which is the emotional effect of your words on an audience. So, specifically, how do these three tie in with speech? Remember, audiences respond to credibility, so always have good, strong ethos. Or McCoy. Audiences also respond to arguments that are emotional or that appeal to some sense of emotion. That's why you need pathos or James T. Kirk. And finally, logic is the beginning of wisdom. Your argument needs to be logically sound and needs to follow the way that the audience actually thinks about the information. The next part of the series will cover ethos, or credibility and authority.